Monica, who recently broke up with her boyfriend, is going to a party at her former classmate's house. Eva and her husband Danny are also going to this party, which will take place at Rafa and Lucia's house. Many of the old friends haven't seen each other since university. David and his wife Sarah are already on their way. Sarah doesn't know anyone from David's friends, but he assured her they would have a great time. Rafa and Lucia live in a luxurious country mansion. Everyone was in a great mood. Julia and her husband Ricardo are already here. Ricardo, like Sarah, is new to this group of friends. He's a lawyer, while Julia owns her own business in computer technology. Soon Monica arrived. Lucia was surprised she was without her boyfriend Carlos. Monica said they had broken up. She was very happy to see her old friends. At some point, David noticed a surveillance camera on the ceiling. Later, Rafa asked David how he was doing. David works in information technology and is always the first to know about all the technological novelties. Right now, he's working on a secret project related to developing a fully transparent tablet. Eva and Danny joined last. Everyone was intrigued by what David had told them about transparent tablets. But he's not the only one here who knows about such things. Back in university, Rafa gained a reputation as a computer genius. This allowed him to earn a lot of money and not deny himself anything. Lucia boasted that her husband managed to hack all the wireless devices around, giving him access to all the neighbors' personal data. Spying on the neighbors became Rafa's new hobby. He could intercept all their emails, internet searches, and other information. Rafa doesn't hide his enjoyment of playing God. He can hack into absolutely any device. It seems wrong to Sarah that Rafa does this for entertainment rather than for the benefit of society. But Rafa prefers to be just an observer. Most of those present here are also knowledgeable about computer technology, so they understand how it works. When Ricardo asked Rafa if he's not afraid of getting caught, Rafa replied that he has good cover. The thing is, he works for the largest companies, which provide him access to absolutely any data. In the kitchen, Lucia and Julia finally got a chance to talk alone. The old friends haven't seen each other for a long time and know little about each other's lives. Lucia said that Rafa is completely absorbed in his projects. Of course, they had some difficult times, but now everything is fine. Julia is also quite happy with her life and her relationship with Ricardo. Their conversation was interrupted by Monica and Danny, who came to get drinks. During dinner, friends continued their conversation, reminiscing about their university days. As students, they were passionate about hacking and amused themselves by hacking into the computers of their less tech-savvy classmates. Rafa expressed the idea that nowadays the whole world uses the internet as entertainment, without realizing that it's the most powerful weapon on Earth. No one stops to think that nothing like this has ever existed in society before them. According to Rafa, cybersecurity is the greatest misconception of modern times, and one day it will destroy everyone. Lately, there have indeed been more cases of hacking attacks, and it's not just within the reach of professional hackers, but also ordinary people who find appropriate instructions online. Suddenly, Rafa suggested splitting into two teams and playing a game, him and David against everyone else. The essence of the game is that Rafa and David, by asking 5 questions each, will guess the passwords to their computers. Of course, everyone enthusiastically accepted the challenge, considering it amusing. Eva was the first to be asked questions. David and Rafa indeed guessed her password with just 3 questions. They also guessed Ricardo's password, which shocked him. He thought the password for his laptop was secure enough. Although Julia, being a businesswoman, carefully safeguards her personal data, it didn't stop Rafa and David from guessing her password as well. Monica was a more worthy opponent because of her good understanding of computers. Monica's password is a combination of letters, and of course such a word is not in the dictionary. Monica is the only person at the table whose password David and Rafa couldn't guess, although they were close. Eva was curious why Google doesn't see all websites. The guys explained to her how the darknet works. David said that one should not use the darknet because it's where one can encounter the worst manifestations of humanity. Ricardo decided to change the subject, asking what the internet might be like in 10 years. David replied that the internet would become so revolutionary that it's hard to imagine. The friends continued discussing innovations, including 3D printers and so on. Rafa returned to the previous topic, saying that in the future, those who understand computers will have power. Information is the most crucial weapon. Using social networks can also be dangerous because just from someone's photos, one can learn a lot about them. It's no wonder David is against Sarah posting photos on Facebook. Rafa continued, saying that every user is under threat every second. Data leaks can lead to the most unpredictable consequences. Rafa collaborates with people involved in information warfare. David thinks his friend is playing with fire, but Rafa that he has a trump card. While everyone was chatting, at some point, Lucia and Rafa exchanged cunning glances. Monica and the others discussed how some time ago, secret files were leaked on the internet, which any user could download. However, the password consists of 50 characters, meaning even all the computers in the world would need several billion years to crack it. These files surely contain something important. Ricardo speculated that it could be evidence of extraterrestrial life, the key to an inexhaustible energy source, or proof of the existence of God. Monica joked that the files might contain details about Kennedy's demise. Suddenly, Rafa hinted that he was able to decrypt these files, which made everyone nervous. Julia said she didn't believe it, but Rafa was ready to prove his words. According to him, the archive contained an augmented reality application that could be installed on any smartphone. David volunteered to test the application. Everyone at the table watched in suspense. David pointed the camera of the smartphone at the room, but at first, he didn't see anything unusual. However, soon David noticed that the bottle on the table fell. Less than a minute later, the bottle indeed fell. David couldn't believe it. Could this application really allow one to see into the future? Eva approached this skeptically and took the phone from David's hands, checking the room for differences between reality and what the application displayed. In reality, the light bulb was on, while in the smartphone's camera, it was not. And indeed, 30 seconds later, the light bulb burned out. Rafa said it wasn't a trick or a joke. This application looks into the future, but only 30 seconds ahead, Monica demanded explanations from Rafa. She is up to date with all the new technologies, but what Rafa showed them simply cannot exist. Rafa repeated that he managed to decrypt those archives and found this application among the files. Monica refuses to believe it and asked David to talk privately. They went to the kitchen. David was as shocked as Monica. She is also concerned that in the last 2 weeks, the number of attacks on important servers has tripled. Monica tracked its source and found out that these are mass-coordinated cyber attacks from household appliances connected to the internet. Monica is panicking because the internet has taken over all aspects of their lives. What if someone is controlling all internet-connected devices in the world? This could be a global artificial intelligence. Their conversation was interrupted by Lucia, who claimed she hadn't helped her husband in any way. Rafa always gets what he wants. They returned to the table. Besides the friends, Rafa hadn't informed anyone else about his discovery. Rafa and Lucia don't want to share this information with anyone else because it could pose a threat to all humanity if it falls into the wrong hands. But Ricardo disagrees, believing they should report it to the authorities, or else they'll become accomplices to criminals. David agreed with him. Julia, on the other hand, saw this as a chance to get rich. She sells domains, and being able to see into the future would be a good thing for her. Rafa objected, saying it would be wrong to use this application for enrichment. It's much more serious than they can imagine. Julia went to the restroom. Ricardo followed her. Julia wants the husband to take her side and agree with her on everything when they return to the table. This application could solve all their financial problems, but Ricardo disagrees with Julia, insisting they should report it to the authorities. However, Julia was too insistent and had already decided everything for herself. When they returned to the table, David continued to ask Rafa questions about the application. Rafa said he hadn't figured out the application himself yet because it's password protected. Rafa even tried to replicate the effect, but the image turned out blurry. Moreover, apparently, it's impossible to surpass the 30-second time limit. Monica asked Rafa for his phone. She wants to connect it to the computer and see for herself. Rafa said there's also a folder with a code, but he couldn't crack the cipher. After connecting Rafa's phone to the laptop, the friends tried to guess the password. It's the password for a single file that protects not against use, but against change. So it must be very simple. When the friends figured this out, they easily cracked the password, and the file opened. Monica displayed the contents of the file on the TV screen. At first glance, the code seemed meaningless, but Monica noticed a variable repeated 9 times. It was 5 ones. Based on the binary system, the variable could mean 30 seconds. Monica put 8 ones instead of 5, but it seems the dimension of the variable couldn't be changed. 5 ones is the maximum value. Danny suggested not to increase, but to decrease the value, and it worked. The friends thought that if they changed the binary format to decimal, then each one would turn into 10. In that case, the time would increase from 30 seconds to 3 hours and 5 minutes. Sarah thought it was risky, but no one shared her concerns. After changing the format, Monica saved the changes and reopened the application. Everyone was nervous about the prospect of peeking into the future for 3 hours. Danny took the phone and started pacing around the room. Apparently their dinner would go without incident. When Danny pointed the phone at the wall clock, it showed the time 3 hours and 5 minutes ahead. This finally convinced everyone that the application was working. Sarah panicked, thinking this wouldn't end well, and asked David to leave with her. Lucia suggested Sarah go for a walk to calm down. Sarah agreed. David told the friends that he and Sarah are going through a tough time because of her unsuccessful pregnancy. Meanwhile, Lucia tries to distract Sarah by asking about her acquaintance with David. Sarah knows that David and Lucia had an affair at university but broke up. Lucia said the real reason for their breakup was that Rafa started courting her. In the end, David decided he wasn't willing to sacrifice his friendship with Rafa for a woman. Lucia advised Sarah not to repeat this mistake and not to make David choose between friendship and love again. Meanwhile, Danny and Monica suggested changing the code format to look even further into the future, but David isn't sure it's a good idea. They might see things they shouldn't see, or temporal paradoxes could arise. Julia thinks nothing bad will happen, but Monica agreed with David. Suddenly, Rafa suggested changing the calculus system to peek into the past instead of the future. Monica enthusiastically embraced this idea and saved the changes. Now they could look back 3 hours. Danny paced around the room again with the phone. The image was transmitted to the TV screen. It really worked. It turns out, the application shows both the past and the future. David and Rafa realized that governments of many countries could use this application for their own purposes. Sarah doesn't like everything that's happening. Playing with time could end very badly. This time, David agreed with Sarah. What if they try to change the future, knowing it in advance? Any action has consequences. However, Rafa disagrees. In his opinion, at any moment, there could be a rebellion of artificial intelligence against humanity. The question is only when artificial intelligence will realize itself. A heated debate ensued between the guys. David believes that when artificial intelligence becomes self-awareness, it will help humanity solve problems it couldn't handle on its own. Rafa stuck to his opinion. This application would be their perfect weapon in the fight against artificial intelligence, which has already infiltrated every aspect of human life. The best way to fight is to anticipate the opponent's actions. Monica is unsure which perspective to agree with. David asked Rafa what else he found in that secret archive. Rafa replied that it was proof of his words. The archive contained videos of volunteers who participated in experiments. They were implanted with chips and exoskeletons, turning them into superhumans. And that's not all. The machine world takeover is already happening. The technologies reaching ordinary people are just a small part of all developments. Suddenly, when Lucia aimed the phone at the room, she saw something terrible. Everyone also saw fire and red sky on the screen. There were no house and no trees. Unable to bear the emotion, Lucia fainted. After reviewing the application's code, Monica learned that Lucia had changed the format, adding a few more ones. This way, she looked 12 days into the future. Everyone panicked, wondering what would happen in 12 days. Would it really be the end of the world? Some of those present believe that this is the result of their thoughtless actions today. Since there's nothing left to lose, Rafa suggests finding out when exactly this will happen and trying to prevent it. Everyone agreed with Rafa. Monica changed the code format to look 7 days ahead. The house is still intact, but it's already deserted. There is a lot of scribbled paper everywhere. Due to the darkness, almost nothing can be seen. Ricardo suggested taking a screenshot. Danny did just that. When Monica brightened the photo, Rafa recognized his handwriting. However, David is convinced that it was done by artificial intelligence. Nobody understands what's happening. There's a speculation that artificial intelligence has integrated this application with surveillance cameras worldwide. This way, artificial intelligence gained the ability to observe people in the past, present, and future. It's hard to imagine anything more omnipresent. Julia said there must be a way to stop this, but to do that, they must find the source. Rafa asked Monica to add one more day. Danny started walking around the room again, observing through the phone. The house was still intact, but something was clearly wrong. Spotting someone on the screen, Danny fell in fear. Gathering his courage, he aimed the camera at the door again, and everyone saw Rafa holding the phone. David guessed that Rafa from the future was watching them right now. It seems he put the same value in the program code, only with a minus sign. Suddenly, Rafa from the future went somewhere. Present Rafa and Danny followed him. Future Rafa sat on the couch and opened his laptop, entering a chat. So the friends got the opportunity to communicate with Rafa from the future. Monica messaged him, asking where the others were. Future Rafa replied that he didn't know. Maybe no one else is alive. Future Rafa also texted that artificial intelligence is wiping them all out. It sees humans as a threat. Someone tried to shut down the global artificial intelligence, but it didn't work out. Suddenly, the connection was lost, but then it was restored again. Before leaving the house, Future Rafa wrote something on the wall. After taking a screenshot and brightening the image, the friends read the call to turn off their phones. Each of them did so, but perhaps it was already too late. The artificial intelligence had probably noticed them anyway. Everyone was in a panic. Maybe this wouldn't have happened if they hadn't installed the application today. At some point, Rafa and David nodded to each other. Not knowing what to do, Ricardo was about to smash Rafa's phone. Suddenly, David laughed and said it was just a prank. He and Rafa decided to have a little fun and prank everyone. Everyone was so shocked and frightened that they didn't know how to react. David explained that neither Rafa nor anyone else had actually decrypted that archive. They had installed sensors throughout the house the day before to make pre-recorded videos adjust to the current image. This made the recording seem real. Rafa fully confirmed the friends' words. Lucia knew nothing about the prank. Unable to bear it, Sarah left in tears. Rafa said he just wanted to create an unforgettable evening for everyone. When Ricardo asked how they made the light bulb burn out, David said they simply turned it off using the smartphone. Julia, like the others, couldn't calm down. Nightmares would haunt them for a long time now. Since David and Rafa know Monica very well, they could anticipate that she would want to change the code. Eva and Danny went to see if Sarah was okay. Ricardo said outright that he didn't like it. Such things shouldn't be joked about. Julia fully agreed with her husband. Rafa and David were silently going to have a drink. Installing the application on her phone, Monica made sure that it actually worked.